Kenneth Jeffrey, Speech 101, Personal Narrative Speech. Have you ever prayed for something for so long that when your prayers were finally answered, it caught you by surprise? You didn't know what to do with what you had asked for? I had been praying and asking for God for a wife, but I was beginning to think my prayers were going to go unanswered. I felt like it was never going to happen to me. One Sunday, however, I finally met the girl of my dreams at a friends and family service at a church that we fellowship with. And the rest of this story has been better than any fairy tale story that has ever been written. I was at this friends and family service in Louisiana, and there was this young lady that was the mistress of ceremony, and immediately she caught my eye. I wanted to get to know her. I wanted to know who she was, what she was about, and what she had going on in life. But because she was leading the service, I couldn't exactly get close enough to talk to her. Comes to find out, however, a good friend of mine happens to be her brother-in-law. So after church was over with, I texted him and said, "Hey, can I get some information on the sister that was leading the service?" He goes on to tell me that she wasn't married, she didn't have any kids, and she had a lot going on for herself, and I knew that I must get in touch with this lady. So I asked him, "Hey, can you give me her number?" He said, "Well, I'll tell you what, I'll give her your number, and if she wants to talk to you, she'll contact you." And let me tell you, that was the beginning of a beautiful relationship. Well, let me digress. It didn't exactly start out as a beautiful relationship. See, come to find out, she was a Yankees fan, and I'm a Red Sox fan. So in the beginning, we had a tumultuous relationship because my Red Sox actually won the World Series that year. But we were going back and forth with friendly banter between the two of us because of our favorite teams. Well, we began communicating every single day. We talked on the phone. We text messaged each other. We became the best of friends. So finally, I felt like it was time for us to go on our first date. I invited her to go to Dallas to go watch her beloved Yankees play the Texas Rangers. She was going to be in Dallas that weekend, so it kind of worked out perfectly. We met up that Wednesday and we went to a baseball game. Let me tell you, the game was going great for the Rangers. We were ahead and they were winning, and all of a sudden, in the seventh inning, it just went downhill. The Rangers ended up losing that ball game, and I never heard the end of that. So after the game was over with, we walked out and we were walking around the parking lot. I was going to be the gentleman and walk her to her car. While walking around the parking lot, she had just bought a brand new car a couple of weeks before that and didn't remember, because she was in such a hurry, where she parked. So we walked around the Texas Ranger Stadium for about an hour and a half looking for her brand new car. Well, after many failed attempts of finding her car, we decided to get in the truck that I was traveling in, and we drove around the parking lots to find her car. Eventually, that evening, we found her car. And I told her then, "Hey, we'll have a story to tell for the rest of our lives." And so that was the first date we had. After that, we began still communicating every day, and we began going out a little bit more closer to home than going all the way to Dallas. And we had our ups and downs, our rounds and rounds, and our arguments and our disagreements. But we were best of friends, and that's the way we were planning on keeping it for a while. After, hanging out for a year and a half or so, I began to develop feelings for her, and I wasn't quite sure if she felt the same way about me. And we began talking, and I began asking her some questions about a few things, about what she had planned for the future and what she wanted to do with herself. And she said she wanted to be married, and she wanted kids, and she wanted to live, the American dream. These were all good things to me, but we were best friends and we didn't know exactly how to approach it. Well, I finally convinced her that I was the guy for her and she was the girl for me. So we tried that dating thing for a little while. We dated for, I guess, about a year. And I finally got enough nerve to go purchase an engagement ring. And after buying the engagement ring, I finally waited to the right time, till the mood was right, till the setting was right. And we went back to Dallas, our starting point, and we went to the botanical gardens, and I proposed to this young. And she was a reluctant at first, but she finally said yes. And after 2 years of dating and a year of engagement, we finally got to the point where we were going to get to say I do. Now, it wasn't exactly easy getting her to say I do. We had a lot of things that went wrong and tried to go wrong before we got to that chance. But because of our faithfulness and depending on God, we were able to finally walk down that aisle together and say I do. Everyone doesn't have a story quite like mine, but in the beginning, we were friends. We later started dating, and now she's the love of my life.